How to stop negative thoughts and reset your mind for positive thinking. There comes a time in life when you feel the weight of your own thoughts pressing against your heart. A moment when you whisper to yourself, why does my mind keep going back to the same pain? And in that quiet moment, something inside you knows it's time for a reset. Negative thoughts have a way of arriving without knocking. One moment you're fine, and the next, a flood of doubt washes over you. You start believing stories that were never written for you. I'm not enough. I'll never change. Stop. I don't deserve better. But let me tell you something. You are not the voice of fear inside your mind. You are the one who hears it. And that means you can redirect it. The first step is awareness. When you catch a negative thought rising up, just stop. Pause. Take a breath, because that single breath is the doorway back into your power. In that pause, you remind yourself, this thought is not who I am. This is only a moment, not my identity. And when you do that, you create space. Space for clarity. Space for peace. Space for a different kind of truth. Resetting your mind is not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing softness in a world that tries to harden you. It's about finding gratitude, even in the smallest things, because gratitude shifts your emotional state faster than anything else. Maybe you're grateful for your breath. Maybe for your strength. Maybe simply for the fact that you woke up today with another chance to begin again. Talk to yourself with compassion. You've survived moments you were convinced would break you. You've walked through storms you never prepared for. You've risen every single time you fell. So treat yourself with the kindness that honors your journey. Let your daily reset be a ritual, a moment of stillness, a deep breath, a positive affirmation, a reminder that you are worthy of peace. And remember this, you don't need to change your entire life in one day. Just choose one positive direction. One thought that lifts you. One action that strengthens you. One step toward the light. Because every single day, you are given a new chance to rewrite the story in your mind. A chance to stop believing fear and start believing in the extraordinary, powerful, unstoppable person you truly are. Your mind can become your home again. And the reset begins today. Awareness creates the path to change. Notice the thought the moment it appears. Separate yourself from the negative voice. You are the observer, not the noise. Interrupt the cycle with a conscious pause. A deep breath can stop mental spirals. Shift toward gratitude. Even one thankful thought can soften a storm. Use compassion as a mirror. Speak to yourself like someone you deeply care for. Create daily reset rituals. Stillness, reflection, affirmations, and silence. Choose one positive direction every day. Small actions build a powerful mindset. Awareness is the very first doorway to transformation, and without it, nothing in our inner world can truly shift. Every meaningful change, whether emotional, mental, or spiritual, begins the moment you notice what is happening inside you. Because you cannot heal a wound you refuse to see, and you cannot challenge a thought you are unaware of. Awareness is not the destination. It is the powerful beginning that opens the mind, softens resistance, and creates space for a new way of thinking. Most of us move through life on autopilot, carrying thoughts that do not belong to us, replaying old memories that no longer serve us, and repeating fears that were handed to us long before we had the ability to question them. Without awareness, these thoughts feel automatic, heavy, and absolute. We believe them because we don't realize that we can question them. We follow them because we don't know that we can interrupt them. But the moment you become aware, truly aware of what is happening in your mind, you reclaim your power. Awareness doesn't demand judgment. It doesn't ask you to label your thoughts as good or bad, right or wrong. It simply asks you to see, to pause long enough to say, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm feeling. This is what's rising inside me. This simple act of noticing breaks the automatic cycle of negativity. When you become aware of a negative thought, you create just enough distance to understand that it is only a thought, not a fact, and certainly not a prophecy. Awareness allows you to examine your inner world with clarity. Instead of reacting out of old patterns, you begin responding with intention. Instead of letting your thoughts run wild, you gently guide them. Instead of drowning in self-doubt, you start to observe where that doubt is coming from. Was it planted by someone else's criticism? Was it shaped by past failures? Or is it rooted in fear, insecurity, or exhaustion? Awareness is the flashlight that reveals the source of your shadows. When you practice awareness, you begin to recognize the moments when your mind spirals into negativity. You notice the tone of your inner voice. You notice the stories you tell yourself. You notice how quickly one doubtful thought can turn into a storm if left unchecked. And with this noticing comes a profound truth. You can choose to interrupt the storm. Awareness also teaches compassion. As you begin to understand your thoughts more deeply, you stop fighting yourself and start listening. You begin to see that your negative thoughts are not trying to destroy you. They are trying to protect you from disappointment, failure, and vulnerability. They are misguided guardians that need understanding, not anger. And when you approach them with awareness and gentleness, their power over you weakens. Another gift of awareness is presence. Awareness brings you back into the moment. Instead of living inside fears about there is a powerful truth many people never learn in their entire lifetime. You are not the negative voice in your mind, and you never have been. That voice, the critic, the doubter, the fearful whisper, is only a collection of old stories, past memories, learned fears, and survival instincts that do not reflect your true identity. But until you learn to separate yourself from that voice, you will continue believing it, obeying it, and living under the weight of its limitations. Every human being carries an inner narrator, a voice that comments on everything. You can't do this. You're not enough. What if you fail? What if you're judged? What if everything goes wrong? This voice can be loud, persistent, and sometimes overwhelming. But here is what you must understand. That voice speaks from fear, not from truth, and fear rarely tells the full story. The negative voice inside you has been shaped by many forces. Childhood experiences, painful moments, harsh judgments from others, failures you never processed, and disappointments you never healed from. Over time, these moments gather inside you, forming a kind of internal echo. When life becomes stressful or uncertain, that echo wakes up and repeats the old fears. But even in its loudest moments, it is still only an echo, not your identity. To separate yourself from this voice, you first need to observe it with awareness. When you hear a negative thought rising, I'm not capable. I'm always alone. Nothing will ever change. Take a moment to step back. Instead of reacting emotionally, watch it with a calm mind. Notice the tone, the pattern, the familiar rhythm of its doubt. The moment you become the observer rather than the participant, you weaken the grip of negativity. One of the most powerful realizations you can have is this: if you can hear the voice in your mind, it means you are not the voice. You are the one who is aware of it. There is a quiet space within you, a space deeper than your thoughts, a space that remains untouched by fear. From that space, you can question the voice. You can talk back to it. You can choose not to believe it. This ability to step back and witness your thoughts without being consumed by them is the beginning of mental freedom. When you separate yourself from the negative voice, you also start identifying where these thoughts came from. Maybe your self-doubt came from a parent who constantly criticized you. Maybe your fear of failure came from a moment when someone laughed at your dreams. Maybe your belief that you are not good enough came from a single comment someone made long ago, a comment that you carried like a scar. Understanding the source gives you clarity, and clarity gives you power. Separating yourself from the negative voice also means being gentle with yourself. Instead of saying, "Why am I like this?" you shift to, "It makes sense that I feel this way, but I don't have to stay here." This softness opens the door to healing. You realize that your negative thoughts are not proof of your weakness. They are signs that you are still growing, still learning, still trying to protect yourself. As you continue this practice, you begin to experience a deep inner shift. The negative voice becomes quieter, softer, less convincing. It still speaks, but you no longer react with fear. Instead, you respond with wisdom. You separate who you are from what you think, and that separation becomes the key to reclaiming your peace. Because at the end of the day, the negative voice is only a shadow, and you, the awareness behind it, are the light. Negative thoughts often arrive like a sudden wave, fast, overwhelming, and uninvited. One small worry becomes a bigger fear. One doubt becomes a full story. And before you realize it, your mind is spiraling into a place you never intended to go. This spiral is familiar to everyone because the human mind is wired to protect you by anticipating danger, imagining worst case scenarios, and preparing you for things that may never even happen. But here is the powerful truth. The spiral only continues if you let it run unchecked. And you have the ability to stop it through a conscious pause. A conscious pause is not just a simple breath or a moment of silence. It is an intentional break in your mental pattern, a deliberate interruption to tell your mind, stop. Wait, I need to choose how to respond. When you pause, even for 5 seconds, you break the automatic flow of negative thinking. You interrupt the fear-driven script that your mind is trying to replay. You create space between the thought and your reaction. And in that space, you gain control. Think of your mind like a river. When negative thoughts flow freely, the current becomes stronger and faster, pulling you into emotions you don't want to feel. A conscious pause is like placing a rock in the river. It slows the flow, redirects the direction, and creates a calm pool of awareness around it. That moment of stillness allows you to say, is this thought true? Is it helpful? Is it mine? And most of the time, the answer is no. The pause doesn't have to be long. It can be a single deep inhale, a few seconds of closing your eyes, a gentle grounding moment where you place your hand on your chest and remind yourself that you are here, you are safe, and this thought does not define your reality. This tiny act of intention creates a massive shift in your emotional state. When you pause consciously, you interrupt the brain's fear response. You shift from survival mode, where every thought feels urgent and dangerous, into awareness mode, where you can reflect, evaluate, and choose. In that pause, your mind begins to soften. The intensity of the negative thought weakens. Your emotional clarity becomes stronger. You realize that the thought you were about to believe, the story you were about, gratitude, is one of the most powerful forces in the human experience, yet is often the most overlooked. When negative thoughts take over, when your mind drifts into worry, doubt, or fear, gratitude becomes the anchor that brings you back to the present moment. It gently shifts your focus away from what is missing, what is painful, or what is uncertain, and leads you toward what is still good, still working, and still holding you together. Gratitude is not about pretending everything is perfect, nor is it a denial of struggle. It is not a blind optimism that ignores pain. Instead, gratitude is a conscious choice, a deliberate redirection of your attention, a reminder that even in the midst of chaos, there are still moments of light. When you shift toward gratitude, you don't erase the negative. You simply refuse to let it be the only thing you see. Negative thoughts grow stronger when your mind focuses on lack. Lack of progress, lack of support, lack of certainty, lack of confidence. But gratitude focuses on abundance. The thing of the lessons you've learned, the strength you've built, the breath you are still taking. This shift, even if small, begins to calm the emotional storm inside you. When you feel overwhelmed, pausing to acknowledge even one blessing can create a powerful internal shift. Maybe you are grateful for your resilience, the way you've survived challenges you once believed would break you. Maybe you are grateful for the people who love you, even if they are few. Maybe your gratitude is as simple as appreciating the warmth of sunlight on your face, or the quiet strength of your heartbeat, or the fact that today, in this very moment, you have another chance to begin again. Gratitude softens the mind. It relaxes tension. It opens the heart. It invites peace into the spaces where anxiety once lived. The more you practice it, the more naturally it rises within you. Over time, it becomes a habit, a grounding force, a way of seeing the world that reveals beauty even in imperfection. Shifting toward gratitude also helps you reconnect with yourself. When negative thoughts tell you what's wrong with your life, gratitude shows you what's right with it. When negativity whispers that nothing is enough, gratitude reminds you that you are enough, that you have enough, that you are becoming enough. Gratitude does not ignore your struggles. It simply says, there is more to your story than this moment of pain. One of the most powerful aspects of gratitude is that changes your emotional state instantly. A worried mind becomes calmer. A restless heart becomes steadier. A discouraged spirit becomes a little more hopeful. Even if the situation hasn't changed, you have, and that alone changes everything. Gratitude is also a practice of awareness. It teaches you to notice small details. A kind gesture, a peaceful moment, a beautiful sound, a quiet victory. When you train your mind to see these moments, you begin to rewire your thinking. You teach your brain to search for light instead of darkness. And slowly, your inner world becomes brighter. The shift toward gratitude is not always easy, especially on hard days, but is always possible. And every time you choose gratitude, you strengthen a pathway in your mind that leads to positivity, resilience, and inner peace. Gratitude becomes the lens through which you see your life. A lens that reveals hope, even when things feel heavy, because gratitude does not change your circumstances. It changes you. And when you change, your entire world begins to transform with you. Inside every person, there is a voice that whispers criticism, a voice that questions, doubts, judges, and compares. This inner critic often grows louder during moments of stress fear, or disappointment. It tells you that you're not doing enough, not trying hard enough, not strong enough. Sometimes it even convinces you that you are the problem. But here is a transformative truth. You were not born with this critic. It was created over time, shaped by experiences, expectations, and wounds you never asked for. And because it was learned, it can be unlearned through compassion. To replace the inner critic with compassion, you first have to understand why that harsh voice exists. It didn't appear to hurt you. It appeared to protect you, even if its method is flawed. The critic believes that if it warns you enough, corrects you enough, or scares you enough, it will keep you safe from rejection, failure, or disappointment. But instead of protecting you, it drains your courage, steals your confidence, and dims your inner light. That is why compassion is essential. Compassion becomes the gentle correction that the critic never learned to give you. Compassion is not weakness, nor is it an excuse to avoid growth. Compassion is strength wrapped in softness. It is the ability to say to yourself, I am doing the best I can. Even when life feels heavy, it is saying, it's okay to try again. Even when you feel tired, it is reminding yourself, I deserve patience and kindness, especially when your inner critic tells you the opposite. When you speak to yourself with compassion, you begin to break the automatic power of the inner critic. Instead of reacting to negativity with more negativity, you respond with understanding. Instead of scolding yourself for a mistake, you acknowledge the effort behind it. Instead of calling yourself weak for feeling pain, you honor the courage it takes to feel deeply. Compassion softens the edges of your inner world, allowing healing to flow where judgment once lived. Replacing the inner critic also requires attention to your inner language. Notice the words you use when you speak to yourself. Are they words you would use with someone you love? Someone who is hurting? Someone who is trying? If the answer is no, then you know it is time to rewrite the script. Talk to yourself the way you would talk to a child learning something new or a friend going through a tough time, with patience, with warmth, with support, with reassurance. Compassion does not erase responsibility or accountability. Instead, it gives you the emotional safety to grow. When you are not beating yourself down, you can learn more clearly, try more courageously, and rise more confidently. Judgment closes doors, but compassion opens them. Judgment says, you failed, while compassion says, you learned. Judgment says, you're not enough, while compassion says, you are becoming. The more you practice compassion, the quieter the inner critic becomes. It might still speak, but its voice loses its authority. It becomes just another thought, not a command. You no longer believe every harsh word it says. You no longer surrender your worth to its pressure. You no longer mistake its fear for your truth. Over time, compassion becomes your internal guide. It holds your hand through difficult moments. It reminds you to rest when you're tired. It encourages you to try again when you fall. It tells you that you are worthy, not because of what you achieve, but because of who you are. And when compassion becomes your primary voice, your inner world transforms. You feel lighter, calmer, stronger, more grounded, more whole, because compassion doesn't just silence the critic. It teaches you to love yourself in ways you never knew you needed. A peaceful mind is not something that simply appears on its own, and positive thinking is not a switch you turn on once and forget about. A calm, strong, focused mind is built through consistency. Through small, gentle rituals that reset your thoughts, recenter your emotions, and remind you of who you are becoming. These rituals do not need to be grand, complicated, or time-consuming. They only need to be intentional, because intention, when repeated with devotion, becomes transformation. Daily mind reset rituals are like emotional maintenance. Just as you charge your phone every day, nourish your body every day, and clean your surroundings regularly, your mind also needs care. Without rituals, the noise of the world, the weight of responsibilities, and the pressure of constant comparison slowly fill your inner space. Before you realize it, your mind becomes cluttered with negativity, anxiety, and self-doubt. Rituals make sure you empty that space, breathe again, and come back home to yourself. One of the simplest, yet most powerful rituals is stillness. A few moments of silence every morning or night where you sit with yourself, breathe deeply, and allow your thoughts to settle. Stillness doesn't demand perfection. It doesn't require you to clear your mind completely. It simply gives you a quiet space to observe what is rising within you without judgment, without pressure, without rushing. In that silence, clarity begins to bloom. Another effective ritual is mindful breathing. Even a single minute of slow, deep breaths can reset your entire emotional state. Breathing tells your nervous system you are safe, and safety calms the mind. It stops the fight or flight reaction that amplifies negative thinking. A few breaths can shift you from chaos into calm, from tension into ease, from confusion into presence. Breath is your built-in reset button. Always there, always available, always powerful. Affirmations are also a gentle, yet transformative ritual. They are reminders of your strength, your worth, your potential. When repeated daily, affirmations slowly rewire your thinking. They counter the negative beliefs that may have lived inside you for years. An affirmation such as, I choose peace, I am enough, or I deserve clarity, transformation does not come from giant leaps, nor does healing happen in a single moment of inspiration. Real, steady, lasting change grows from small steps, quiet steps, consistent steps, intentional steps. Choosing one positive action each day may seem simple, almost too simple, but it is one of the most powerful practices you can ever commit to. Because one small step, repeated again and again, becomes a path, and that path leads you toward a life that feels lighter, brighter, and more aligned with who you truly are. Most people become overwhelmed by the size of their goals or the weight their struggles. They think they need to change everything at once, fix everything immediately, or erase every negative thought in a single effort. But the mind does not work this way. The heart does not heal this way. Progress does not grow this way. Change becomes sustainable when you break it down into small, doable choices. One action, one intention, one moment at a time. Choosing one positive action a day means giving yourself permission to be human. It means understanding that some days will feel heavy, some days will feel confusing, and some days you may not have the strength for big steps. And that is okay. What matters is that you choose something. Even if it is tiny, even if it is gentle, even if it is quiet. Because each choice becomes a message to yourself, a message that says, I am trying. I am showing up. I am moving forward. A positive action can be anything that nourishes your mind, strengthens your spirit, or supports your emotional well-being. It can be as simple as taking a walk, drinking water mindfully, cleaning a small part of your room, writing one line in a journal, speaking one kind sentence to yourself, or choosing not to respond to a negative thought the moment it appears. These actions may seem small, but their impact builds over time. Every small positive choice accumulates. Every step adds to your momentum. Every gentle action strengthens your inner foundation. One positive action a day also teaches discipline in a compassionate way. Instead of forcing yourself into drastic routines, you learn to build habits slowly, softly, lovingly. You learn that you don't need to be perfect. You only need to be present. This soft approach allows your mind to adapt without resistance. It creates progress without pressure. It brings growth without burnout. Another gift of this practice is that it builds self-trust. Each time you follow through on a small commitment, you show yourself that you can rely on your own actions. You prove to yourself, gently and consistently, that you can take care of your mind and your life. Over time, this builds confidence, not the loud, external kind, but the quiet, internal confidence that cannot be shaken. The kind that whispers, I can handle whatever comes. I trust myself to rise. Choosing one positive action a day also shifts your focus. Instead of thinking about what you haven't done, you acknowledge what you have done. Instead of criticizing yourself for not being enough, you appreciate yourself for trying. This shift alone can change your entire emotional landscape. It replaces guilt with gratitude. It replaces pressure with peace. It replaces hopelessness with forward motion. And here is the beautiful part. One positive action often leads to another. When you take one step, you naturally become open to the next. When you make one good choice, it becomes easier to make another. Momentum grows quietly, And before you realize it, your life begins to change in subtle but powerful ways. Because big transformations are simply the result of many small actions, repeated with love, repeated with intention, repeated with hope. And when you choose one positive action each day, you choose to honor your journey. One step, one breath, one moment at a time. As we reach the end of this journey together, I want you to remember one thing. Your mind is not your enemy, and your thoughts are not your destiny. You are not defined by the storms that pass through you, nor by the doubts that whisper in the dark. You are defined by the choices you make, the courage you show, and the hope you hold onto even when life feels heavy. Negative thoughts may visit, but they do not have the right to stay unless you let them. You are the gatekeeper of your inner world, and you have the power to decide what enters, what remains, and what must leave. When you become aware of your thoughts, you take back control. When you challenge negativity, you reclaim your strength. When you shift your focus toward gratitude, compassion, and self-kindness, you begin to rise above the noise in your mind. Every breath you take, every pause you allow, every ritual you create becomes a reminder that peace is not far away. It is already within you, waiting to be uncovered. Remember that your transformation does not need to be dramatic. It does not need to be fast. It only needs to be sincere. One positive choice a day is enough to change the rhythm of your mind, the direction of your thoughts, and the quality of your life. One step leads to another. One moment of awareness leads to a breakthrough. One act of self-love can shift the entire energy of your day. You are capable of resetting your mind. You are capable of choosing new thoughts. You are capable of stepping into a life that feels aligned, grounded, and filled with purpose. But this journey begins with a decision. A decision to show up for yourself, even when it's hard, even when you feel tired, even when the old patterns try to pull you back. You deserve a mind that lifts you up, not one that brings you down. You deserve peace. You deserve clarity. You deserve a life that reflects the strength, resilience, and beauty that already live inside you. And with every choice you make, every thought you redirect, and every day you start again, you are moving closer to that life. So take a deep breath, center yourself, and remember, you are not here to survive your thoughts. You are here to guide them. You are here to expand beyond them. You are here to rise above them. Your mind listens to the story you tell it. Starting today, choose to tell a story of hope, healing, courage, and possibility. Because the power to reset your mind has always been within you. And the moment you choose it, your entire life begins to change.